if you do something not traditional, particularly from that country, they would not like you. They think you're just fucking it up, you know. And honestly, I didn't want to be like that. Like I knew the cuisine. I worked in it for many years with my dad. I understand it. I love it. I want to respect it, but how can I still have fun with it?
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Australia really is the land of opportunity and a melting pot of just about every culture on Earth. Whether you're a first, second, or third generation Australian, it is the waves of migration patterns from those new Australians that have created new food movements. Of course, there are other hospitality professionals that simply came to our shores for an opportunity to showcase their own skills, and they've enhanced our dining landscape in a really unique way. Chase Kojima is the executive chef of Sokyo, Kiyomi, and Chuuka. Chase, how you going?
Hey, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Mate, we're stoked to have you on the show. You've made quite an impact on Australia with your food and restaurants since you've been here. What drove you to come to Australia from San Francisco in the first place?
Honestly, growing up in America, we don't even know where Australia is because Americans, we all just love America so much. But it was, I think it was around year 99 when I was kind of working for the Nobu hospitality group, and I was traveling a lot to, let's say, duplicate their fantastic restaurants, and I had this opportunity of talking about opening a Japanese restaurant in Australia, in Sydney. And again, like, you know, I never been to Australia. I had no idea what we're talking about. But because I traveled a lot with Nobu already, I thought I knew a lot about, you know, the different countries. And then basically I was on a holiday. I was in Tokyo. I was just enjoying my holiday, and they said they'll fly me first class to Sydney and check it out for about a week. And then basically they flew me. Like I had to get out of my holiday from Tokyo to Sydney. I think that was my first time taking first class too. So that was amazing. But once I arrived, they really organized, you know, like everything about how Australia is. And man, like that first couple of days, I already fell in love with Australia. Like I was like, man, if I can actually live here, and you know, can I even do what they want me to do? You know, so I had to do a tasting and all that. But man, I just fell in love, and yeah, I totally wanted to come here after that point.
Can you take us back to that time? Did they take you to different restaurants during that period or around places in Sydney?
Yeah. So again, when I was invited here, it was like a program where they wanted me to do a tasting of what I can do with Australian produce, but obviously I never worked with anything. So they scheduled me to go to the fish market and meet some suppliers, the meat suppliers, and you know, like they drove me around like the whole 2 days and then let me explore, and then I was able to like kind of taste everything, and I'm just being like kind of blown away from how good these things are. And then yeah, they took me to I think which restaurants? I remember going to Rockpool. I remember going to Long Grain. I remember they took me to a Japanese restaurant, Toko. Bunch of restaurants, but you know, like just I was just amazed about a lot of things. Like, but the country itself, like just the flavors and everything. Like I was still like naive about, you know, I thought I was super good already, you know, and know a lot of stuff. And then here I'm eating all these Australian produce cooked by certain ways, and I was getting like really pressured.
Well, tell us about Sokyo. I know you have the other venues, and we can get to them soon. But it's one of the best Japanese experiences in Australia. How do you approach what you offer there?
Oh, thank you. Well, the so when I was offered to do a restaurant, and they said I have all the freedom, I can, you know, create any type of menu. So I had about, I think, 9 months to create a Japanese restaurant. I worked uh, with in big restaurants, so I knew how to kind of do a big project. But they basically give me kind of like what they were looking for. Like, we're gonna be like a 200 seater, obviously like a fine dining Japanese, which we didn't know at the time what we're gonna be doing. So like, as I was creating this new restaurant that I had no idea what I was gonna do, I just said, yeah, I'll do whatever I want. But during that time, I had to actually eat out more in Sydney to understand what people are looking for and what I actually wanted to cook. Because obviously I was working for Nobu for many years, and working at like French restaurants and working for my dad. Obviously he's a chef, so like, I didn't know what was my cuisine until that couple of months. And the restaurant that really shocked me while I was creating Sokyo was Tetsuya's. And when I went to Tetsuya's, and I felt, man, these flavors, presentation, service, are absolutely, the best. Like, it's my one of my favorite restaurants. But like, I was like really fell in love with the clean, simple taste that Tetsuya had, and I totally wanted to kind of do that kind of restaurant, but in a fun, young way. So that was basically kind of my approach. Like, I wanted to do a young, fun, cool Tetsuya restaurant that everyone can come to, and then I went on and just kept testing and trying. And because it's a big company that I'm working for, the Star, um, there's a lot of procedures that we need to take. Like, okay, I think I came in January of 2010, and then the plan was to open it in around October, November of that same year. But like February, can we do a tasting? March, can we do a tasting? April, can we do a actual like guests and do a tasting with David Chang? And I was like super stressed out. Like, just like time wasn't enough because I was by myself on this project as a chef. And yeah, so and again, coming from America, I have zero friends in Australia. I don't know how to use their system because I never like actually worked in a uh, Australian hotel company. And it was just like so much learning. And then a lot of those things that I was used to using, because in America, for example, you can get almost anything. Like, if you want this certain peach from Japan, or this certain preservative thing. But then where I was, like, I would go to the Japanese suppliers, and then I'll be like, "Hey, can you get this? Can you get that?" And they're like, "Oh, I never seen this before. All right, let me try." And there was a lot of waiting, and there was a lot of substituting, and then obviously it doesn't taste the same. So I was starting to make things on my own, but obviously, like, just things you just can't make, right? And then like, months went on, and obviously I was able to slowly get these things, and it's like a new product. Like, even the suppliers here, they're not big companies, so they're like, "Hey, we need to like kind of lock in that you're going to be buying all these within the X amount of time, because there's an expiry date on it." And I'm like, "Yeah, no problem, no problem." And so, like, a lot of that was a lot of headache, and I think I was one of the only first ones who come to the company so early for this new whole mini restaurant opening project. So like for example, like even like a like green tape, like painter's tape that you would use to label your containers wasn't even set up in the system. So I'm just like freaking out, like where can I get this dumb tape? Like should I just use a masking tape? You know, like, but then like I have a particular thing about color and size, and you know, like I need a Sharpie if I'm labeling stuff. Like these are normal things that you're supposed to have in the kitchen that, you know, like it was just hard. Like all these things was super hard for me. And then, you know, later on, like after a couple of months later, after everything's set up with all the hard work, all the new chefs will come and, you know, it's already set up for them. So I'm just like, dude, you don't even know what I've been through. That green tape is like freaking gold. Like don't waste it, you know? Like don't start taping stuff to stick things on the wall. Like this is labeling only, you know, like yeah. And then you better order it before we run out. And like just I was a bit anal about these things. Yeah. So I'm happy that I was able to learn a lot during that beginning of the time. And then, you know, lucky that, you know, I have a great team that we're able to execute the restaurant really well. You know, we're open 7 days, and you know, just we're getting a lot of good feedbacks, and I'm really really grateful for that.
You did create that restaurant, and Sokyo changed Japanese dining in Sydney and created one of the best offerings that you could get in the country. What's it feel like now, many years later, having this establishment that's so renowned and awarded? And it was, you know, started from you.
Well, you know, I was 29 when I opened it. Um, you know, like I had a lot of energy, and I was just pumped. Like I was really, because it's not like my restaurant. It was a team restaurant, and I'm leading. I'm in charge of the Japanese side of the cuisine for this whole big company, and I wanted to make sure, you know, like if the bosses are looking to get a Michelin star, or we call it a chef's hat here, like that was one of the goals. Um, you know, so we were working really, really hard. Again, I don't know anyone. Like I don't know the reviewers. I don't know how it works here. So just work hard. The first year, we were getting like bad, not bad reviews, but like just standard reviews. And I was getting really angry. Like I was getting angry at myself. I was getting angry at my team. Like, what are we doing wrong? And you know, like I would read the reviews, and I would slowly understand like, oh, these are the things that I've been doing wrong. You know, like I'm a very open-minded person. Like I don't think I'm always right or anything. I really like to understand, and try to always get better. And you know, actually the criticism and all these things that was told to us, I took it, and I think I was able to learn a lot from um, that process, you know. So like the first year, I worked probably my hardest, and then we didn't get anything. Like you know, all the restaurants that we opened Momofuku, we opened a steakhouse, an Italian restaurant. They all got like hats, and you know, they're all celebrating. And the Japanese restaurant that we were the busiest, honestly, we were pumping more than everyone, but we didn't get this hat that we were really really trying to get. And man, I was broken. And I think that really drove me to work that extra hard the following year. And we were just like, we're gonna get this hat. Like this hat was just everything to us at that point. Like we're just like, okay, we're gonna work our ass off to do whatever it takes to make it to that next level. Like, and then, man, our restaurant sucked our first year. Now that I think about it, you know, and that's clearly why. I thought it was literally because I was American or something, you know. Like I just thought, like, man, like they don't like Americans or something. No, but no, we just sucked. And then that whole year after we got better, I was, you know, getting more comfortable, not comfortable, more confident. And then when we did get the hat, man, it was like the best feeling of like in my life. Like just like crying just for a hat. Like I was just crying with my head chef or with my sous chef. It was just amazing. It was just that hard. Like we worked, and we pushed everyone. And man, I'm about to cry again remembering that time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I respected it so much. Like it was literally like a mission. Like it was like a 3 Michelin star in my head that time. You know. But yeah, like it was great.
A little earlier, you mentioned your dad, who's a renowned chef himself. Can you tell us about your childhood and what food was like in your family?
Yeah. So my father, he's a old school chef, and he came. I mean, he trained all in Japan, but he came to America, I think, when he was like 23, and he didn't speak a word of English. And then, like when he was around 26, he opened this restaurant called Kabuto Sushi. It was like a Japanese old school restaurant, traditional, and then had like a sushi bar. And like right away he was getting recognized being one of the best Japanese restaurants in San Francisco. I think there wasn't much uh, good Japanese restaurants. I think that time, actually there was a lot of Japanese people, but I don't know the level of what they were doing. And then yeah, like he was like totally getting recognized. And then he used to be open very late. Like we'll keep it open because I worked there. We would keep it open till like 3 a.m. So then a lot of like these fine dining restaurant chefs and owners would, after they finish work, like we would finish late, right, like 12 or even 1, they can come to our restaurant and enjoy their time. And that's how we got even more famous, I think. And then they would invite us to their restaurants. And like, so we would be closed, I think, Monday or Sunday. So then on our day off we would go to these restaurants that they would invite us. And then he would start to like understand the fusion. That time the word fusion was cool, right? Now it's like super sucks, but like that time, that time was like Californian cuisine, and like all these French restaurants just started to use Japanese ingredients. So then on Tuesday, we would get to work early, and then he would start creating these fusion Japanese foods. And then like it's again our restaurants like really like old school local Japanese restaurant. So he would just like get some cool paper and just like write down the special and just stick it on the wall. And then people will come and they will order it, and they're like, oh wow, this is interesting. This is fusion. And then like every week we would go to new restaurants, like we're talking Michelin stars, right? And then on Tuesday we would create something, and then for the whole week, like we'll just keep adding specials. So so like for after a couple of years, there's like no space on the wall. There's like just stickers of these specials all over the wall. It looks freaking ugly, but like we had like special hot dishes and special sushis, and it was a cool experience. Like naturally working like that, I start creating new things for my dad too, and then I'll be in charge of naming it. And then slowly, like I'll start to, because I was studying computers too, so I'll start to be able to do some Photoshop cool little menus for my dad. And we were killing it. Like I thought we were so good. And then at one point my dad's like, you gotta leave. Like you gotta leave, or else you're not gonna get better. So um and then I worked in French restaurants. I didn't particularly enjoy. I had a dream job where it was a restaurant called oh no, I just forgot now. It's in Saint Helena, like in Napa Valley. Uh, Damn it, why is it not coming up? But it's basically near French Laundry, and then it was a Japanese guy, and he had an Italian Japanese restaurant, or it was Nobu. And funny enough, like there was a couple of head chefs for Nobu that worked for my dad before, so they were able to get me in right away to Nobu. I had a choice. I think it was Nobu Las Vegas, or forgot which one was the other one. It was probably like New York or something like that. But I just thought, Vegas is closer. I'll just pick Vegas. They wanted me to put to like one of the best chefs for Nobu at the time, and that was pretty tough. Yeah.
I think at one stage you're even been a tennis coach. What? What do you love about tennis? And is there a tennis player on the circuit that resembles you as a chef?
Um, I used to play a lot of sports. Like I think you know there was a karate place near our house, so I would go to karate, kyokushin karate, to be particular, to be specific. But did a bit of that. Obviously, basketball throughout school years. My dad really loved baseball, like somewhat like he was kind of almost pro or something. So made me play a lot of baseball. But my mom like loved tennis, and when my mom actually passed away with cancer, bone cancer, when I was young, and then my dad decided to let me play tennis for my mom, and then I just played a lot of tennis at the time, like competitively throughout junior time, and I was playing so much that like I was Northern Californian ranked. I don't want to say the number because it wasn't that high, but like just playing a lot of tennis, and yeah, like I just loved the game. Like I just thought it was really it teaches you patience, but then like at that time I didn't understand it, but like think about it now, like just it makes you a fighter, and I think it's important to be like that mentally. And yeah, I coached for like not full time, but like obviously like just kind of part time here and there. And yeah, just like I love the game. Thinking about the pros, I don't know. I like Roger Federer. Like who doesn't, right?
Not that long ago, before the pandemic, you opened a restaurant with Melbourne chef Victor Leong in Sydney, Chuuka. Can you tell us about that cuisine and how that collaboration came about?
Yeah. So um, I think we were in Melbourne with my team for the Good Food Awards for I think what year was that? Like 2017 or 18. And then Victor and we spoke. He came to my restaurants many times. His sister worked for us. Like like just knew the guy well, but I never actually ate his food. So we had a group of I think like almost 10, and I was able to try his restaurant. And when I was eating it, and he wasn't there. He wasn't there that day. He was like, "I'm sorry, man. I'm not gonna. I'm off that day," or I don't know if he was hangover or whatever. No, I was just kidding. um, um, no, he looked after us, and I was actually blown away. I never had anything like it before. And then the more I was thinking about his food after we had it, like I was thinking, wow, this is actually very similar to my style, but in Chinese. I didn't know how else to kind of explain it to people. Like I just thought, wow, the way he manipulates the flavors, I thought it was very similar to how I kind of do it in Japanese. Um, and then that was always in my mind, and so we the star. I mean, it's a big company, but the leaders are obviously there's only a couple of them, right? And there was a space that was opening up, and then usually like I have these meetings, and they were like I have this space, and then I just like, hey, can I try something? And then they're like, oh, okay, well, what do you want to do? And then I was like, can I open a Chinese restaurant? And they're like, okay, that's good, like and I was like, but I need your help. I need to team up with someone because I don't know how to cook Chinese food. And they're like, all right, okay, that's interesting. And then later on, I explained like, hey, like I want to team up with Victor. And then they actually obviously knew who he was. And then they said, all right. And then like I came up with the plan, and then I approached him, and then luckily he said, sure, like let's continue on the conversations. And then it just kind of worked. Like everyone agreed, and from there, like just we were working mobily. We would fly to each other. Like there'll be disagreements on things like equipment or or like just conversation that we just need to meet face to face. So he would fly, I'll fly over there, and we would chat and kind of like simulate the movements. And obviously, because I don't know the Chinese uh, how exactly it works, if it's a Japanese restaurant, it'll be a lot easier. But like Chinese, he's telling me like there's a lot of like mise en place that you need to have this here and that and then he showed it to me. He showed me the movements before he was open, like in his restaurant, and then it made sense. Like, oh, okay, so we can't have this, or we need this here, and then yeah, like I honestly wanted to open a Chinese restaurant, but also I wanted to learn Chinese cuisine too myself, and obviously, it'll help my portfolio too, right? Um, and yeah, that was pretty much it. Our cuisine is Chuuka, so that's Chuuka is Chinese cuisine in Japanese. So if you go to Japan and you eat Chinese food, it's all Chuuka, and then it's like it's different. I honestly think it's a better Chinese cuisine than Chinese, but don't don't yeah, like I don't know what I'm talking about, but like yeah, like when I go to Japan and I would eat like Kyoyasai, like in Kyoto, like there's these old Chinese restaurants, and like it's fantastic. Like it's nothing like a normal Chinese restaurant. So that was kind of the goal. And yeah, I learned so much from Victor. I feel lucky.
Can you give us an example of a dish or two which exemplifies the food that you're doing there, and maybe a collaboration between the two of you?
Yeah. So probably the one of the simplest ones would be uh, well, this actually doesn't represent the true Chuka in Japan, but when because I was opening a Chinese restaurant, I went to China. I went to China my first time ever. I went to Guangzhou, that's the south of China, Shanghai to understand their type of flavor. It's a bit more sweet, and then I went to Chengdu, where they're like the like the capital of like spices, like spicy food and like mapo tofu and things like that. I wanted to try like the traditional stuff. And then I went to Hong Kong, and you eat all these fantastic Cantonese food. But Victor's like, I'm not doing no Cantonese food. So I was like, okay, all right. I love Cantonese food. Why we can't? He's like, oh, we're not doing Cantonese food. We're not doing Cantonese food. So I was like, okay, cool. That's out of the question. But and then like go to Hong Kong and even in China, like the goose was so good, like the roast goose and goose here is very inconsistent. It's super expensive, hard to get. Like, and then and then and then I was able to kind of manipulate our sauce and the way we present our duck to make it taste more like goose. So then I will put like cherry blossom essence into our a sauce that Victor perfected, and like he tells me Liho Fuchs sauce is much better. But like I'm like, okay, that's fine. You don't have to give me your real 20-year recipe, but let's try to make it more Japanesey. And then and yeah, like I fell in love with what we're doing. Like it just tastes more like what I wanted, in the direction that I wanted. And yeah, like we kind of wanted that 50% Chinese, 50% Japanese. And then throughout while we've been open, we were able to kind of go in both directions. We can make it more Chinese, we can make it more Japanese. So like our menu and our palette was just like it can go so much to both directions, and it was really fun. And again, like I think my palate changed a lot ever since in Open Chuka. Like I was more simple and light, and like let's say I don't eat too much spice and not too much flavor with like spices and things like that. But I think my palate's changed a bit from since then. Like I think I know a lot more about Chinese cuisine and their flavors, and I think because of that, Sokyo got even better too. um, and yeah, like just uh, I think our duck is very delicious. We have our menu changed a lot ever since from after COVID. But before that, like we had our style of mapo tofu that was all vegan. Like literally, we had no meat in there. We used like sun-dried tomatoes, five spice tofu, and like fermented things to make it taste so meaty. But it's all veggies and um, I had like an American Japanese Chinese twist with like my yuzu chicken, my deep fried chicken, and a lot of things like that. Like just I feel we were we were kicking butt, and obviously the view really helps.
Well, tell us about your food at Sokyo. What's your interpretation of Japanese, and how do you start from from the beginning of a dish and create something new?
Yeah. So well, when I opened Sokyo, my number one concern was how can I convince a Japanese person to like my food because, you know, like particularly Japanese people, they love authentic and just traditional. They really, really love that. I love it too. Like I know for sure that like if you ask a Japanese guy from Japan, they would say don't mess with tradition. So that was always in my head. Like, how can I? Because I can't. I'm not gonna be doing no traditional. Like it's actually harder. Like because, like people been doing it for years, and I have this like couple of years experience. Like, how can I come even close? But like my stress was how can I make a cuisine that's like with Australian produce and a twist, but even Japanese people will like. And that was my thinking all the time when I was creating new dishes. And I think I think the 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 trick for me is there's a lot of interesting produce here, and people whoever has been living in Sydney for so long, maybe they don't think like, for example, like Moreton Bay bug is something special. But like when I first had it, I was like, man, this is so like, what is this? Like, it's not a prawn, it's not a lobster. It's just like somewhat kind of in between. Like the flavor is so strong, but the texture is so soft. So then when I did it into like tempura, deep fried, it just like kind of like it's so light that you're almost just like eating like a crispy cloud. And then it would be simple. Like I'll just have like a little simple dipping sauces on the side, and then when you eat it, like if you didn't put the sauce, it's super traditional. But then when you dip it into these sauces, it's traditional but with the twist. Like it's like one will have like a sweet and sour type flavor. One will be like just savory but has this element of like just like a kick. And like just I would marry my style of flavors with traditional techniques. Like, but traditional techniques are really hard. So, and then, you have new people working for you all the time. So like, you really need to kind of think about how can we make this recipe into a bulletproof recipe where we're not going to have any issues making mistakes and things like this. So yeah, like, man, I'm actually parked outside and the police just stopped by. God damn it! What is he doing? All right, whatever. But yeah, like, and then like for example, like I have a binchotan grill, so then you get that really nice natural flavor from its own fat. Like once the fat starts to drip from while you're grilling, like it'll instantly smoke because the binchotan's so hot, and it'll like naturally smoke itself. So like another thing would be like lamb or lamb chops. Japanese people don't eat lamb, like they just don't like it. I don't think they're just scared of it. But then I will make a sauce with like miso and try to let them like enjoy it, like just just like they're familiar with the sauce, and then and like they usually just accept it. And then I will secretly have Vegemite in there too, so they like Vegemite too now. Like just kind of mess around and play around like this, like just that Vegemite that I add, it gives it that touch more bitterness, but then that umami that comes through, it complements the miso, and then I'll add my little American twist like maple syrup and things like that to just make it a little sweet, or I'll do some plum wine reductions in there, and and things like that. And it just like we would do a lot of trial and error, but overall, like we would think about how it actually eats, and like Japanese people, again, they love everything that melts in their mouth. So like I'll have to use particularly good cuts in the beginning, and then slowly I'll have techniques where I can get like a little bit of tougher cut, but then I could still make it a bit softer than most people would serve it. And then and like that was kind of the goal here. Like I want everyone to like it, even the Japanese people. Like if you do something not traditional, particularly from that country, they would not like you. They think you're just fucking it up, And honestly, I didn't want to be like that. Like I knew the cuisine. I worked in it for many, many years with my dad. I understand it. I love it. I love it. I want to respect it, but how can I still have fun with it? And that's why there's a lot of thought that went through, I think. And even now, like we're just kind of tweaking things. Like my sushi rice, for example, like we still don't have a recipe. Like I just can't standardize it yet. Like just the rice changes all the time throughout the season. So I have particular blends, depending on the season, how much water or how much time I have to wash, the temperature, and like we're just never happy, I guess. We just never think it's perfect. So we just have to keep trying to make it better. And it's interesting, every time I go and check, it's somewhat different. And then like sometimes it's actually really, really good. And I'm like, whoa, this is so good. Who made it? What did we do today? And they're like, no, this is exactly the same way we did it last week. I'm like, what the hell? Why is it taste so good today? Like, is my tongue messed up, or like so? Yeah, like you buy things. Consistency is the hardest, and I think we always fighting and driving for that, and it's fun. Like it's just something to keep our head going all the time.
Well, Chase, you didn't really know Australia, and you didn't know anyone when you first came here, and now you're one of the most important operators of Japanese food in Australia's culinary landscape. We've loved having you on Deep in the Weeds. I feel like we could do another episode. We might catch up with you in a couple of months' time and get some more stories from you. Please keep in touch, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you very much.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of Australia's hospo community, suppliers and producers in search of hope during this pandemic. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.